Hello, in this video, we'll learn about different users and groups in Kali Linux. So you might have realized that you cannot execute some of commands so easily when you are operating as a standard or non-root user. So when you're operating as a standard user, you usually have to always have to use a sudo command. You have to put sudo before some of the commands. So let me show you what I mean. Just log in there. Yes. So let's go to full screen. Okay. So what I mean, this here is the standard or non-root user, right? So that's what I mean by non-root or standard user. So usually when you're operating here, you have to put sudo before a certain command because you don't have enough privileges. These are called low privilege users, right? So let me show you what I mean. So let's say I want to use this this command. So as you can see here, it says permission denied. So I don't have enough privileges to execute this command. So in order for me to be able to execute it, I have to say sudo fdisk. Now you will see, now it will ask for my password and it will execute. Just put in your password and then now it executes, right? So basically this is just gives you the information about the disk. So yeah, that's what I mean by non-root users. So non-root users usually every time you execute a command that is above that is beyond your privileges, you have to put sudo, and I'll explain this later. But for you to be able to execute sudo, you must be in the sudo group. I'll explain that further. But let me show you another example. Let's say I want to open a certain folder. Let's go here, and then you can see this folder here, the root folder. If I open this normally, let's say I double click, it says fail to open the directory, right? I can't open that folder unless I operate as what? As root, because root has more privileges than the standard or non-root user. So if I open as root, as you can see, it opens easily, just like that. So as I said, non-root users have low privileges. That's why they can't do a lot of things. You can't execute some commands. You cannot open other folders or directories. That's why you have to put sudo, or sometimes you have to manually open as root. And earlier I mentioned that you have to be in the sudo group in order for you to be able to execute any of these any of the commands that are above your privileges, right? So you have to be in the sudo group. That's why if you went in a sudo group, you will not be able to use this sudo command here. So with that said, let's try to add a new user to our computer. So in order for us to add a new user, we have to use this command. Let me first clear here. You have to use user add m, then put your username. I'll say my username is Kim, and then group, right? So what group do I want to use? Remember earlier I said that for you to be able to execute the sudo command, you have to be in the sudo group. So for me, for this user to be able to run as smoothly or be as useful, at least it has to be in the sudo group, right? So the group that you're going to use is sudo, and then the shell type is this I'll explain this later why we're using this shell type, but it's not that important, but I'll explain it later. So we do this. Okay, so the reason why I can't do this is the same reason that I explained later, that I explained earlier. Sorry, I explained earlier that some of the commands you cannot execute some of the command as a standard user. So in order for me to be able to actually use this, I have to put sudo again. So let's start afresh here, but let's put sudo at the beginning. As you can see, we're done. It executed so simply when you put sudo there. And then let's try to put a password here for Gin. That's the command. Okay, so again, we don't have the privileges to do that. Let's put sudo first, and then as you can see, I'm trying to practically show what happens when you're using the standard user account, the standard user, when you're operating as a standard user. I'm trying to show you what happens when you try to execute some commands. As you can see here, some of these commands cannot be executed without using sudo first. So 1 2 3 4 5 6, so that's the password here, 4 5 6. So we now have our password just like that. So in order for me to change to the new user, I have to type this su and then put in the username, password 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we are there. As you can see, we have our new user Gin. So that's how you add a new user to your system. So we need to know what this user is capable of. In order to do that, you have to do this. Right. So these are the commands that I can run on my system. Right. As you can see, sudo -l gives us the capabilities of our current user. So as you can see here, this user may run the following commands on HOGUQ. I can run all of them, but obviously this is a standard user. Just because I can run all of them doesn't mean I can run them as easily as root. I have to use the sudo command every time. Understand? So what else can we know about this? Let's try to get the information of this current user. To do that, we just type ID, right? So that's it. That's the user ID for Gin. And then before I can remove this user, let's try to see who's logged into this computer. So we can either use this, it's gonna show here Urahara is logged in, or we can use this command. It shows the list information. Shows it doesn't show a lot of information, just shows a simple who logged in and the date. Understand? So you can either use W or use who, and then it's gonna show you who's logged in. Now let's do something else here. Let's create another user. Let's create another user quickly. Let me start afresh so that maybe someone else may see. User add m. Let's call this test because we are going to delete this. I'm going to show you how to delete it. I'm going to show you how to delete this user. In fact, let's not add another user. Let's delete this current user. Right. So let's go back to Urahara. Let me put in my password for Urahara. Right, so now we want to delete this account, this user kin. So how do we delete that? It's simple, it's just say user deal kin, just like that. And you might see again here, I cannot delete it without using sudo, right? So I have to say user. Okay, let me just to show you how easily it is, I cannot do this on a standard user, so let me go to the root user and let's see if I can be able to delete this user here, user again. So here I can't delete this because the user is currently used by certain process, right? I can either do this and kill that certain process, I'm sorry, or I can just go to, I can use this kill all user kin. So kill everything, every process that kin is involved in, right? I've killed everything there, right? Okay, what did I do? Okay, let me go back to right, let me try to do that again. User kin. So this, okay, I type that wait a second. Okay, let's use this kill, then kill user kin, then right, so let's kill, then kill this user there kin, then user del kin. Let's try this and see who's logged in. So this user is not logged in. Okay, sorry, let's do this again. Sudo right, so let's try to delete that. So we deleted the user kin right there, right? So the problem that I had was that the user was still involved in the terminal, right? So you just have to go back, just close the terminal and open it again, and then you can delete it so easily. As you can see, what I was trying to say here was that in order for me to delete this or to have any modification in kin, to modify this user kin here while I was in the standard user, I had to use sudo first, but here in root I can just use the command user delete kin. So that's the difference. You don't have to do a lot of things on root. Basically root has all the capabilities, all the privileges that can be offered there. So let's continue and view the last logged in users, right? To do that you just have to type last Okay, so I don't have that command, but I can install it. So let's skip that. You can install it if you want, but this command is used to view the last logged in users. And if you want to know where these users are stored in, you can just use this command. I explained what this command does in the previous video. So you use it to read files, right? So you can view you can view the stored users here, because all these users are stored in this file, right? So as you can see here, these are all the stored users, but then this command shows everything, even the system users that are functioning in this computer. So it shows every user, system and human. But so if you want to know the human, if you want to filter out the human users, you have to use this command, right? You have to use this filter. In fact, it's a command, but I call it a filter because that's what it does, right? So put this in here. Remember, when we were creating that other user, when we were creating that other username, we used this, and I mentioned that this is a shell type, right? So every human account or every human username is stored in this shell type. It's sort of like a file, right? So this is what we have here. These are the users, administrator. So let's go back here, and then let's do the same command again. So as you can see, it's same result. Doesn't matter where you are, it gives you the same results. So these are the users, the human users that are in here, right? So that's how you can see the stored users here. Okay, now let's go to the groups. So in order for you to add the group, let's start there. In order for you to add a group, let's do this from a root command, because we've been using the standard let's go to the root user, because we've been using the standard user for a long time, and I think we know how that behaves. So let's try to see how things behave from the root user account. So to add a group, you just say group add, right? Let me call it GoTay. So we can do that. Right. We have a group there, and then to join a certain user, I have to do this. So if I was on a standard user account, I'd have to start with sudo, but I'm in root, so I'm just gonna use user mod, and then AG, and then the name of the group first, GoTay13, and then the user Urahara. Right. So let's see if this user is in there. So to check the users, we use this command, get tent group, and then GoTay13, and then let's use this filter. So this is a bit messy, but yeah, this is how we view. So there's nothing, so I didn't add that new username, right? So let me try to do that again. Okay, so the mistake was here. I have to put a dash right there, right? So now we have added this username, we've added Urahara to this. So let's try to check if it's there again, right? So as you can see, we have a user in this group Kote13 with the user Urahara right there. So that's how you can add the user, and this is how you can check the users that are in the group, right? So now to remove this user, this is what we do. G password, then D, then the username Urahara, right? And then the group Kote13. So I'm assuming that the user is removed. Let's check again if the user is still there. So as you can see again, we don't have anything, we don't have any users, the same as here. We don't have any users. We have successfully removed the user Urahara from the group Kote13. So that's how you can do that. So in order to see where the groups are stored, you have to use this command cat etc. So remember, when you want to see the usernames, you go to this, right? But when you want to see the groups, you go to group, right? So similarly, these are all the groups that are there, right? These are all the groups. Even the system groups are still, you can still see them here. And if you want to see the credentials for a specific user here, so as you can see, sorry, before I continue, as you can see here, we have Kote13. This is our group there that we just created. And then if you want to see the credentials for a specific user, you just type this again. Like I mentioned, cat is used to read and write and modify files, right? So if you want to see the credentials for a specific user, you go here, because this is where all passwords are stored, right? And then you choose, you filter out the username that you want. So I want the password for Urahara. Sorry, the password for Urahara. And then, so this is the password. It's called the hash keys, right? So it's not gonna be like plain text. Obviously, it's not gonna be plain text. That's for your own security, in case someone hacks you. Obviously, the hacker will know how to decode this, but just for security, this is how the passwords are stored, right? So that's it for the usernames and groups. So see you in the next video.